The elevator hummed shut behind me, and the truth walked in with me, uninvited and undeniable. And I knew in that breathless second that power was not a roar, but a patient, precise fever that spreads through the bones. I am Helena Montez, 35 years old, a senior bank executive who wears a suit like a shield and carries ambition like a secret coin tucked in the lining of that shield. And this episode begins with a private ache I kept hidden even from myself. A personal fracture that would become the knife I would twist with the calm of a cold, unblinking verdict. I had come to this tower with a quiet hunger to prove that a woman could map the skylines of finance the way a seasoned cartographer maps the coast. But there was another flame I kept stoked in the quiet hours when the city slept and the numbers did not. A hidden ambition to bend the rules just enough to protect what mattered most to me, to keep the door to my future cracked open so I could slip through when the moment demanded. The personal frame for this episode was not a vague mishap, but a real, intimate betrayal. My circle used to feel small and tight, a few trusted people who moved through the glass corridors with me, sharing the risks and the dawns of a life spent chasing late hours and early meetings. He was a man I believed I could trust, a companion who seemed to understand how much I carried and why I kept the wall a little higher than it needed to be. He was also the partner of my oldest friend, a person who stood by me when the olds and the youths in our world whispered that a woman could not pull the levers without sacrificing something sacred. We would meet in the hotel lobby after a long day of negotiations, talk through budgets the way a pianist plays a difficult piece, and there was a warmth there that felt safe, a shared language built on late nights and careful compliments. Then one day the warmth betrayed me, and the room filled with the small, sharp sounds of a truth that had been hiding in plain sight. The kind of truth that arrives like a gust of cold air, even when the room is warm with light. I discovered he had found solace elsewhere, a distraction that wore my best friend's smile as a mask and wore my trust away as if it were nothing more than a piece of paper crumpled and discarded. The sting was not merely the act, but the act's perfect timing. The way the betrayal arrived at a moment when I needed loyalty most, when the numbers were about to shift in a way that could redefine my career and my entire sense of who I was. From that moment, the question shifted from who I could trust to how I could turn the very betrayal into the most precise instrument of my own power. I did not want revenge to be a storm I could not weather, but a careful arc I could shape with my own hands. So I set a plan that would let the man who had betrayed me be both witness and instrument, a living reminder of the price of disloyalty, while also becoming someone I could guide, test, and ultimately, if I chose, use. It began with a simple act that felt almost ceremonial in its cold clarity. I invited him into a project that would test loyalty, a project that rested on risk management and internal controls, the kind of work that touches every line on every balance sheet and makes the room lean in with attention. I spoke to him as if we were old colleagues, the kind of conversation that signals trust while also marking the boundaries of authority. And I watched the way his eyes lit up with self-satisfaction, as if he believed the betrayal had given him a new edge. But I did not reveal my full hand. I let him believe that I was softening toward him, that the past could be forgiven if the future was proper and predictable. I did not tell him that my inner plan was not to forgive, but to channel the hurt into something sharper than any apology could be. The first steps of my plan felt almost mundane, procedural, the kind of work that fills an open thirst for control. I restructured a segment of the risk team, not with loud thunder, but with the patient, inexorable push of reassignments, the quiet redrawing of lines on charts, The shift of a few key personnel who could see the same risks I did and who would not look away when the truths appeared on the screen. He stood by, a living reminder of the betrayal, and I watched as his confidence bent under the weight of the new arrangement. As if the very air he breathed had become a ledger he could not balance, he would present findings with a smug tone in the morning and a stuttering apology by the afternoon when the numbers refused to align with the version of events he preferred. The more he sank into the role, the more I felt a sense of cold satisfaction, the same sensation I had felt when I learned to read a client by the color of their accounts. The way you can tell a person's truth by the way they spend their courage. This arithmetic of revenge was not loud. It did not require spectacular acts, but a steady, unyielding presence. I kept my distance in the meetings, spoke with measured tones, and let the work speak for me. The betrayal had given me a rival who walked the same floors as I did, who wore the same badge and breathed the same air, yet I would not allow him to forget who held the power in the end. I kept him in the same building, letting him feel the ache of being indispensable yet still under the shadow of someone who could pull a lever and watch the entire edifice respond. There were days when I could hear the hum of the vault in the background, the old scent of metal and money that reminded me of the precision I valued above all else. And on those days, I felt the weight of the decision I had made. Justice served cold does not roar. It arrives on the quiet lips of a successful quarter, on the whisper of a performance review that lands like a verdict, on the bottom line that tilts just enough to reveal a truth the betrayer cannot ignore. The real twist arrived when I realized that revenge, if not tempered, could swallow the doer as easily as the done to. I had learned that the best way to bend another to your will is to give them a role so intimate that their own manipulations become a mirror they cannot escape. So I did something not born of cruelty, but born of necessity. I placed him in a position of real responsibility under my direct supervision, a role that required integrity, consistency, and the kind of quiet courage that does not shout. I invited him to present to the top committee, to stand in the very room where I was both patron and judge, and to do so with the knowledge that his past could be used as a cautionary tale or a springboard for change. He chose the wrong path, tried to shape the story by planting a small lie in the minutes, but I had already prepared the counterpoint, a precise audit trail that connected every rumor to its source and every action to its consequence. When a truth began to unfold, in the glow of the screen and in the sudden, awkward silences that followed, the room realized who had betrayed whom and who had the most to lose. In the end, the board did not praise mercy nor declare war with the weight of a gavel or a loud sentence. They watched a controlled cascade of changes that repositioned not only him but the entire team to a place where loyalty could no longer be assumed, but could be earned anew and tested in the crucible of daily reality. He learned that the woman he thought he had deceived could read him as a book reads a map, every page turning to reveal a route that led him to a place where his actions would be weighed against his words, and where the consequences would not be the loud applause of a crowd, but the quiet, merciless mercy of a manager who refused to pretend nothing had changed. He still worked in the same building, still wore the same badge, but his mornings began with a different fear. The fear of being found out again, of a future that might bleed away the careful gains he had earned by chance. And I, Helena Montez, felt the sculpture of my own life shift, just enough to prove that I did not conquer him by rage or by pride, but by the slow, precise craft of leadership turned to justice. He remained in my orbit, a reminder of the line I refused to cross back, A reminder that the price of betrayal could be paid in a currency that does not glitter in the sun, but adds up in the end, in the form of a future where I hold every option in my own hands.